very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1, bringing you the news this evening. I am Steven Machado.
And I'm Onel Kamaratunga. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
Dry weather affects over 70,000 people across Sri Lanka. Sufficient water available to begin Maha season early, say agriculture authorities. 4 bank officials remanded over alleged $1 billion illegal foreign transfer scheme. Pillaian among 4 indicted over abduction and murder of former Eastern University Vice-Chancellor. Detention order granted against alleged drug kingpin Shiran Basik. Inflation could return to 5% if oil prices remain around $80, says CBSL governor. President calls for unified national center by integrating Triforce's research institutions.
On to those stories in detail now. The Australian Bureau of Meteorology says temperatures in the Central Pacific Ocean could rise by up to 3.6 degrees Celsius due to the ongoing El Niño phenomenon.
Its latest data indicates that the highest temperature normally is expected to be recorded in November.
Now, meteorologists note that such a powerful El Niño event has not occurred during the past century.
Against this backdrop, what are the weather forecasts for Sri Lanka?
Sri Lanka is normally affected by the southwest monsoon from May to September. However, at present, all parts of the country except the southwestern region are experiencing severe dry weather conditions. According to the Department of Meteorology, relatively dry conditions during these months are considered normal. However, the strengthening El Niño phenomenon has intensified the situation and contributed to a more severe drought. During an El Niño event, warm waters in the Indian Ocean shift back towards the Pacific Ocean. As sea surface temperatures around Sri Lanka decrease, a significant reduction in rainfall occurs. This is the situation currently affecting Sri Lanka. According to official figures, 70,828 people have been affected by the dry weather conditions. The highest number of affected people has been reported from the Munaragala district. A total of 33,023 people have been affected there.
දැන්ට මාස 4ක විතර ඉඳලා වැස්ස නැහැ. ඒ නිසා මේ වැව් ඔක්කොම හිඳිලා ගිහින් තියෙන්නේ මේ අපේ වගාවනුත් ඔක්කොම අඩාල වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. පිදුරු ගහක්වත් නැහැ හත්තුන්ට කන්න. ඒ තරම් දරුණුවටම ගිහිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ මේ නියගේ. දැන් පොල් ගස් උනත් මේ සෑහෙන මැරීමකටපත් වෙගෙන එනවා. දැන් වතුර නැහැ ඇත්තටම මේ අඩියක් විතර වතුර ප්‍රමාණයක් තමයි දැන් දැලුවේ තියෙන්නේ. අපි කාණු කපලා අරන් තමයි වතුර ගහන්නේ දැන් පොල් ගස් වල. අක්කර 3-3මාරක් තියෙනවා. කොච්චර කැඩුවා? පොල්ගඩි 3500ක් විතර. දැන් නම් පොල්ගඩි 1700යි 1800යි වගේ තමයි කැඩෙන්නේ. භාගයට භාගයක් අඩුයි.
මේ සැරේ කරපු ගොවිතැන් ඔක්කොම මැරිලා ගිහිල්ලා වැවක ලින්දකවත් වතුර ටිකක් නැහැ. මේ ඉදිරි මාසෙත් මේ විදිහටම පෑවුවොත් අපිට බොන්න වතුර ටික නැහැ, නාගන්න නැහැ. සතෙකුට බොන්න නැහැ.
තල කැල්ල මේ පූදින්න ඕන්නම නැති කියලා තමයි මැරිලා මේ විනාශ වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. ඒ කර තියෙනවනේ මේ තියලා කරන්නේ.
Temperatures in the Pacific Ocean continue to rise. According to the latest data released by the Australian Bureau of Meteorology, temperatures in the Central Pacific Ocean are currently around 2.2 degrees Celsius above normal. That figure is forecast to rise to 3.6 degrees Celsius by November, while Sri Lanka's Department of Meteorology says there is a strong possibility that this could become the most powerful El Niño event experienced in about 75 years. Sri Lanka is generally a country that experiences mixed impacts during El Niño events. This is largely due to the country's location in the middle of the Indian Ocean and the fact that it is influenced by both the southwest and northeastern monsoons.
We do not expect a continuous drought, nor do we expect continuous rainfall. What we are likely to experience is a combination of both. We do not expect significant rainfall across most parts of the island during the early part of September. However, if weather disturbances develop around the Philippines or in the Bay of Bengal and intensifies into cyclonic systems, the southwest monsoon could become active once again. In that event, we may receive rainfall during September. Based on current forecasts, we expect some rainfall towards the latter part of September. We also expect above normal rainfall during October and November. In other words, rainfall during these 2 months could exceed the seasonal average. Those rains may continue into December and even the early part of January. However, during December and January, we expect the northern, eastern and north central provinces to receive the highest rainfall as the northeast monsoon becomes active during that period.
With forecasts indicating a developing El Nino event, the government has decided to commence the upcoming Maha cultivation season earlier than usual. Current reservoir storage stands at 39%. This is higher than the 32% average storage level normally required to begin the Maha season. The overall water level in the Maha Valley reservoir system currently stands at 54%. Accordingly, the Department of Agriculture expects the Maha season to begin in most major irrigation schemes during the early parts of October.
We have decided to bring the Maha cultivation season forward by about 2 weeks. This means water releases, fertilizer distribution and all related activities will begin 2 weeks earlier. Forecasts indicate that flood conditions could develop around November. Therefore, if paddy plants have reached a reasonable stage of growth by then, they will be able to withstand such conditions. 4 executive officers, including managers attached to 4 private banks, who were arrested in connection with an alleged scheme involving the illegal transfer of nearly $1 billion overseas using fraudulent information, have been remanded until the 20th of August. Now, the order was issued after the suspects were produced before Colombo Additional Magistrate Lian Varushavithana. The suspects were arrested earlier today in connection with an investigation into the alleged illegal transfer of nearly $1 billion overseas by submitting false documentation claiming that goods were being imported to Sri Lanka. Investigators have revealed that one of the arrested private bank branch managers is linked to the fraudulent transfer of approximately $5.5 million. According to investigations, a sales promotions manager attached to another private bank had carried out 25 telegraphic transfer transactions, resulting in the transfer of $647,207 overseas. Investigators have also uncovered that an executive officer attached to another private bank had facilitated 1,067 electronic fund transfers. The total amount transferred overseas through those transactions is alleged to be $24.6 million. Police further stated that another executive officer arrested in connection with the case had allegedly transferred approximately $32 million overseas through 943 electronic fund transfer transactions. Investigators say the suspects had acted in violation of rules and regulations issued by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka. Police further noted that information uncovered during the investigation suggests that the suspects had received financial benefits in exchange for facilitating the transactions. Investigations have also revealed that customs reports and other supporting documents were allegedly forged by the suspects. The Police Financial Crimes Investigation Division, which is conducting the inquiry, stated that the suspects had also provided training to other individuals on preparing fraudulent documentation. Meanwhile, the principal suspect in the case, Jeffrey Mohammed, remains in remand custody until the 20th of August. He was remanded when he was produced before Colombo Chief Magistrate Asanga S. Bodragama on the 6th of August. The Financial Crimes Investigation Division arrested the suspect on the 19th of June in connection with allegations that nearly $1 billion had been illegally transferred overseas from 2023 to date under the guise of importing goods into the country.
The Attorney General has filed indictments before the Polonnaruwa High Court against former Eastern Province Chief Minister Sivanesadure Chandrakanthan, alias Pillayan, and 3 others. The indictments relation to the abduction and murder of former Eastern University Vice Chancellor Professor Subramaniam Ravindranath.
The Attorney General today filed separate indictments before the Polonnaruwa High Court against former Eastern Province Chief Minister Sivanesadure Chandrakanthan, also known as Pillayan, and 3 other accused over the alleged abduction, torture and killing of former Vice Chancellor of the Eastern University, Professor Subramaniam Ravindranath, in 2006. The other accused named in the indictments are Kadiragatambi Jayakishan, alias Jayandan, Nimal Devasukan, alias Jayakandan, and Nadarasa Nagulendran, alias Simbu or Nagulan. What exactly was this case? And who was the Vice-Chancellor who was abducted? Professor Sivasubramaniam Ravindranath was appointed acting Vice-Chancellor of the Eastern University in 2004 and was subsequently appointed the permanent Vice-Chancellor of the University in 2005. The academic went missing on the 15th of December 2006 while in a high-security zone in Colombo. Following his disappearance, family members lodged a complaint with police after he failed to return home. Investigations later revealed that the professor had allegedly been abducted, tortured and murdered. The Criminal Investigation Department commenced an inquiry into the disappearance in 2006 itself. However, indictments in the case have now been filed nearly 20 years after the incident.
The defense statements of the accused in the case filed over the Easter Sunday terror attacks began today before three-judge High Court bench in Colombo. The case, which includes more than 23,000 charges, include conspiracy is being heard before Justices Navaratna Marasinghe Ramanathan, Kannan and Sujiva Nishankar. Now, when the case was taken up, the accused Sinul Abdin Mohammed Jasmi, Mohammed Mustafa Mohammed Rizwan and Mira Sahir Mohammed Nafli presented their statements from the dock. 24 accused have been named in this case and they are currently being in remand custody. The presentation of defense evidence by the accused is still ongoing.
Now in more local news, alleged large-scale drug trafficker Shiran Basik is now being held under a 90-day detention order for further questioning. The detention order has been issued under the Prevention of Terrorism Act.
Sri Lanka police have revealed that suspect Shiran Basik has previously worked as a clerk at the Dehiwala Mount Lavinia Municipal Council. Police stated that investigations carried out so far have uncovered information relating to 5 hotels located along Colombo's Marine Drive, which are allegedly owned by the suspect. Shiran Basik, who had fled Sri Lanka and was reportedly hiding in Dubai, was arrested by authorities in the United Arab Emirates and subsequently deported to Sri Lanka. He was brought back to the island on Friday night. Prior to the issuance of the 90-day detention order, the suspect had been questioned under a 72-hour detention order while in the custody of the Colombo Central Crime Investigation Bureau. The 48-year-old Shiran Basik is a resident of Dehiwala. In addition to allegations of large-scale drug trafficking, Basik also faces accusations relating to the possession of firearms and the possession of dangerous and sharp weapons. Investigations are also underway into assets suspected to have been acquired through drug trafficking operations and other forms of organized criminal activity.
Opposition political parties are strongly opposing the government's proposed reforms to the judicial system as law enforcement continues to pursue several serious crimes, including drug trafficking, murder and large-scale financial fraud. Their strongest objections are directed at the proposed constitutional amendment to extend the retirement age of Supreme Court and Court of Appeal judges by 2 years.
Several measures are currently being implemented to strengthen Sri Lanka's judicial system and improve the administration of justice. As one such measure, the government has decided to extend the retirement age of judges across all courts by 2 years. 2 relevant legislative amendments were recently gazetted. The retirement age of magistrates, district and high court judges will be addressed through amendments to the Judicature Act, while the retirement age of Court of Appeal and Supreme Court judges will be increased through the proposed 22nd Amendment to the Constitution. The proposed reforms also include several other measures, including increasing the number of High Court and Court of Appeal judges. However, the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, the main opposition party represented in Parliament, has continued to strongly oppose the proposed extension of the retirement age of judges in the superior courts.
The most venerable Mahanayaka Theras of the 3 sects have stated that introducing a constitutional amendment to extend the retirement age of judges is inappropriate. They have warned that such a move could seriously undermine judicial independence and democracy, adversely affect the administration of justice and pose a major threat to the rule of law. It could also create an unrest in the country, erode public confidence in the judiciary and lead to the collapse of democratic process. Therefore, we must understand that this is an unproductive and harmful move. We must recognize it for what it truly is.
The national organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, Namal Rajapaksa, also made a statement echoing Sajith Premadasa's concerns.
If the government refuses to listen or respond to the concerns raised by the Mahanayaka Theras and the clergy, and also ignores the concerns of the country's doctors, lawyers, entrepreneurs, professionals, farmers and fishermen, then there is no point in continuing to talk about the opposition. Therefore, we will continue to struggle on behalf of the people until the government feels the pressure and responds to these concerns.
Venerable Galveva Siridhammathera of the Jana Aragale movement shared his views on Sri Lanka's opposition while addressing a gathering in Hanwella.
What we have
to say is that it was these very parties that governed the country in the past. The people of this country know how the nation was governed under those administrations. They know what the situation was like. They know how killings took place. They know how journalists were murdered. They know how ordinary people engaged in politics were targeted and killed. The people of this country are fully aware of all these things. We also have something to say about the role of the opposition. There is a serious issue because the opposition is not carrying out its responsibilities properly. At the same time, the opposition's backbone has been broken. The reason is that public confidence in the opposition has been completely eroded. Whether it is the camp of Nama Rajapaksa and the SLPP or the camp of the Samagi Jana Balawega, the people know how these groups govern the country, the decisions they took and the actions they implemented when they were in power. The public is fully aware of the state the country was under their administrations. As a result, even when they speak out against these issues or attempt to oppose them, people are no longer willing to listen.
Speaking at a media briefing today, Samagi Jana Balawega parliamentarian Mujibur Rahman commented on a recent survey report released by the Verity Research.
The people of this country gave this government an opportunity. In particular, they believed the country would move towards a major economic and social transformation. However, that confidence is gradually diminishing day by day. Look at these survey findings. What we have to say is that the government should hold the provincial council elections or referendum as soon as possible. Holding an election now could at least to some extent prevent a further decline. If the elections continue to be delayed, these survey results indicate that the government's future trajectory could become increasingly unfavorable. Even when the government enjoyed high levels of public approval, we call for elections to be held. Therefore, before support declines any further, we are once again urging the government to hold an election as soon as possible.
This was the response from Government MP Tilina Samrakon.
Practically speaking, we say to any research institution conducting surveys to come to the ground and see for themselves. Talk to the people and visit the villages. As a government, we believe the public support we receive from the ordinary citizens has not diminished in any way. In fact, compared to before, people have developed greater confidence in the government. This is particularly evident in the way the law is being enforced. The implementation of law and the judicial process have become more systematic than before. Our contribution towards strengthening the economy is greater than it was previously. Likewise, our interventions to strengthen the agricultural sector and support farming communities have increased significantly. Therefore, I do not believe the public support for the government has declined. When you come down to the grassroots level, we see that people have greater confidence and a more positive perception of the government than before. We firmly believe the people of this country continue to stand with us.
Central Bank Governor Dr. Nandalal Veerasinghe says Sri Lanka remains on track to bring inflation back to its target level of around 5% by the end of this year or early next year, provided global oil prices remain close to current levels.
Now, speaking during an interview with Bloomberg on the sidelines of the Invest Sri Lanka events in Sydney and Melbourne, Dr. Veerasinghe said the central bank's baseline forecast assumes oil prices will remain around $80 per barrel through the remainder of this year and into next year.
Well, you have earlier declared that the accommodative policy is over. What kind of oil price do you need to see to give you some confidence that inflation is coming under control?
What we have predicted is that our baseline scenario is that if oil prices remaining around $80 a barrel for this end of towards this year and next, then we can manage the situation. So if there are any surprises, then obviously we have a challenge. So what we see, current projection of around 80% now is moving around that level. And if it remains that level, I think we can manage inflation. We are expecting inflation to come down around our target level of 5% in, say, towards the end of this year and early next year.
Do you think that's an optimistic view? Because we had June 6.8%, July was 7.3%, 5%-ish is the target. Do you think policy is restrictive enough at this point?
Yeah, because when you look at our tightening in May, it's very proactive and sharp, and it was a surprise by the market by 100 basis points. We did that because we saw inflation was coming up, moving around 7% for a couple of months this year, especially towards the end of this year. So that was a proactive measure for us to contain. One is anti-inflation expectation. Second, to slow down the credit growth is so expanding rapidly, and also to have any undue pass-through through persistent inflation from current high levels as a result of oil prices. So for that, all these things are tightening in our view was very proactive and good enough measure. That's why last time we did not revise the interest rate in the last cycle. But we are very closely monitoring the situation. We are projection says it's gone down 5%, so that I think we think we have sufficient tightening. We also see as a result, credit growth is now slowing down, and also currency is now fairly stable and gradually appreciating from the pressure we had in April and May as a result of very high oil imports. And as a result, now we are seeing a stabilizing situation as a result of partly the monetary policy measures that we had in May, and also some of the measures brought in by the government to curtail certain imports. For example, motor vehicle import, they have a surcharge imposed, and they have loan-to-value ratios are imposed by the central bank as a macroprudential measure. Now those policies are now working, as we can see now, going forward.
What about the growth outlook? Any risks there?
If you look at Sri Lanka has been growing around 5% for third consecutive year after the crisis. So we're very steady, stable growth around 5%. Even Q2 we see economy will be growing around 5%. There could be some slowdown in the second half, but still it could be around between 4 to 5% because the slowdown is expected because the tight monetary conditions as well as the high prices. This will have some impact on the growth, but it won't be very adverse because now things are settling down. We think this year second half may be around 4 to 5%. Then it will come back to more potential growth of 5% next year onwards.
Well, you're here in Australia for the Invest Sri Lanka events here in Sydney and Melbourne also. What's your message to investors here? Why should they be putting money into Sri Lanka?
I think when you look at the situation now, clearly after the crisis, economy is recovering nicely. Around 5% is a very good growth. And going forward also, the uncertainty and vulnerability that we saw, we have been able to manage the Middle East situation. And also we had the internal DITRA, the cyclone had an impact, small impact. With all this kind of external shocks, we have been able to manage the situation well. So going forward now, it is a good time. The economy is recovering and now moving to high growth path. So for anyone to benefit for the future steady growth that we are seeing over the last 3 years and next couple of years, this is a time for anyone to come to Sri Lanka, and with currency stable and there's reasonable prudent macro policy, even fiscal policy is much more prudent now. As a result, the private sector growth backed by private investors are now, we can see realization. There's time for Sri Lanka, anyone to invest in Sri Lanka now.
How is Sri Lanka navigating the IMF program, given just the degree and magnitude of global uncertainty at the moment?
If you look at the program, we have been successfully completed the fourth and fifth review together in first quarter. Now this next review is somewhere in November, December, and we are expecting that also to be completed. And then next year, we will be completing 4-year Exim Fund facility, fully completed program by the second half of next year. So it's going well. And IMF has recognized it's one of the case studies that Sri Lanka is one of the countries the IMF backing and support has come out extremely well to stability and also medium to long-term growth.
President Kumar Dissanayake has instructed officials to establish a National Research and Development Centre by integrating all research and development institutions currently operating under the Army, Air Force and Navy. The directive was issued during a pre-budget 2027 discussion related to the Ministry of Defence.
During the discussion, the President pointed out that establishing a single national centre would improve the efficiency and effectiveness of research and development activities currently carried out separately by the three armed forces. According to the President's media division, discussions were also held on the need for the defence sector to rapidly integrate with modern technology and adopt advanced technological equipment in order to strengthen national security and address emerging global challenges. The meeting further focused on the operations of the General Sir John Kotalawala Defence University Hospital, as well as plans to commence operations at the Neville Fernando Hospital, the allocation of necessary funds for the initiative, and future development plans.
A surgical team at the Trincomalee District General Hospital has successfully removed a 3-kilogram bladder stone from a patient in a rare and remarkable operation. Now, doctors say the stone is believed to be the largest bladder stone ever removed through surgery anywhere in the world. The surgery was performed last Friday on a 52-year-old patient who was receiving treatment at the Trincomalee District General Hospital. The operation was carried out by a team of specialist doctors led by consultant urologist Dr. Pragaladan Balakrishnan. The bladder stone that was successfully removed weighed 3 kilograms and 100 grams.
This achievement is the result of a collective team effort. Initial examinations revealed that the patient had a massive bladder stone. The case was subsequently referred to our specialist team. Following all necessary surgical procedures, we successfully removed the stone from the patient's bladder. According to available records, it is the largest bladder stone ever documented and removed through surgery. The patient is currently in very good health.
This surgery was successfully performed due to the expertise and dedication of our doctors. The medical team and hospital staff made the best possible use of the available resources to carry out this complex procedure. This achievement reflects the excellence, professionalism and capability of our hospital system and healthcare service.
Doctors say the patient is recovering well and is expected to be discharged from hospital within the next few days.
The 81st anniversary of Indonesia's independence was marked today in Colombo.
The Indonesian embassy in Colombo held a flag-hoisting ceremony to commemorate the 81st anniversary of Indonesia's independence. More than 150 people attended the ceremony, including embassy officials and staff, members of the Indonesian community in Sri Lanka, as well as other invited guests. Ambassador of Indonesia to Sri Lanka and the Maldives, Devi Gustina Tobing, served as the inspector of the ceremony, while Major A. Praditya Yoga served as the commander. Addressing those gathered, Ambassador Devi Gustina Tobing highlighted the historic ties between Indonesia and Sri Lanka, recalling Sri Lanka's role in Indonesia's journey towards independence and international recognition. She pointed to the Colombo Conference in 1954 and the Asian African Conference in Bandung in 1955 as important milestones in the shared history between the two nations. The ambassador reaffirmed Indonesia's commitment to further strengthening bilateral ties with Sri Lanka while working towards sustainable growth and mutual prosperity.
The annual festival of the historic Nallur Kandaswamy Kovil in Jaffna officially commenced today with the traditional flag hoisting ceremony, marking the beginning of one of the most significant Hindu religious celebrations in Sri Lanka.
The annual festival of the historic Nallur Kandaswamy Kovil in Jaffna officially commenced today with the traditional flag hoisting ceremony, marking the beginning of one of the most significant Hindu religious celebrations in Sri Lanka. The ceremonial raising of the sacred flag took place this morning, signifying the start of the 25-day religious festival, which is set to continue until September. Large numbers of devotees gathered at the historic temple to witness the commencement of the annual Mahotsavam, a religious event that attracts worshippers from across Sri Lanka and overseas each year. The festival is regarded as one of the most important events in the Hindu religious calendar and features a series of religious observances, rituals, processions and cultural activities throughout its duration. The Grand Chariot Procession, known as the Theru Festival, will be held on the 9th of September and is expected to draw thousands of devotees to the northern city. Meanwhile, in conjunction with the annual festival, Newsfirst Nalluril Palani, a special festival program is scheduled to be held over 3 days on 7th, 8th and 9th of September, coinciding with some of the most significant events of the celebrations. The Nallur Kandaswamy Koval, one of the most revered Hindu temples in Sri Lanka, remains a major spiritual and cultural landmark, with the annual festival continuing to serve as a symbol of faith, tradition and community unity for devotees from around the world.
World News.
From extreme heat and wildfires in parts of Europe to heavy rainfall and flooding across Asia, severe weather continues to affect millions of people.
Krishant Devasagayam brings us the latest. Krishant?
Thank you, Stevin and Unelka. Well, from US to Europe and even to Japan, extreme weather is indeed making headlines across the world. Now, weather experts are closely monitoring the changing weather patterns and conditions as several regions face the risk of further extreme weather in the days ahead. Communities are being urged to stay informed and follow local weather warnings as conditions continue to develop. Let's take a closer look at what is happening around the world.
Wildfires in Europe. A devastating fire in Belgium's Hyphens Nature Reserve has shattered modern records, easily surpassing the previous largest recorded wildfire from 2011. Driven by exceptionally dry soil, hard-to-reach terrain and shifting winds, the blaze has consumed about 30 square kilometers. While firefighters successfully blocked the flames from spreading west toward the German town of Monchaux, assisted by local Belgian and German farmers using tanker trucks, crews yesterday were still racing to contain a kilometer-long advancing front threatening a municipal forest near the German border. In Greece, a fast-moving wildfire on the island of Salamina west of Athens claimed 2 lives after sweeping through the village of Peristeria, where strong winds caused the blaze to escalate dangerously within minutes. A second outbreak occurred in the Selini district, prompting joint firefighting and Coast Guard operations to evacuate stranded beachgoers. A massive response team consisting of roughly 260 firefighters, 15 ground units, 10 aircraft and 8 helicopters battled the flames under high risk near gale force weather conditions. Earthquake in Indonesia. As Indonesia marks its Independence Day, the nation is in the midst of a desperate search for survivors following a powerful 7.7 magnitude earthquake that struck Flores Island, leaving more than 50 people dead and thousands displaced. The disaster has caused widespread destruction to homes and infrastructure, forcing authorities to pivot from national celebrations to emergency rescue operations as they navigate the aftermath of one of the region's most significant seismic events in recent memory. Landslides in South Korea. Torrential downpours driven by severe seasonal storms have triggered widespread flooding and deadly landslides across East Asia, most notably in South Korea's Gyeonggi city, where a record-breaking deluge of over 400 millimeters of rain buried an apartment building in a landslide, killing 1 person and injuring 2 others while paralyzing local infrastructure. Flooding in Japan. This severe weather follows a similar catastrophic flooding and recorded rainfall in Japan's Chiba prefecture, which left 10 people dead and stranded thousands at Narita airport, as experts link the intensifying typhoon season and extreme weather events to rising global temperatures and a strong El Niño pattern. Storms in the US. Days of severe storms and torrential downpours across Indiana have left at least 7 people dead, including a 4-year-old boy killed by a falling tree, a cyclist trapped in a washed-out road, and motorists swept away by flood waters, while triggering catastrophic flooding that saw Indiana Police's White River crest at record levels not seen in over a century. The disaster prompted hundreds of emergency rescues, evacuations, and federal disaster assistance approved by the president, leaving nearly 130,000 customers without power, as residents and officials begin the recovery process now that rain is finally expected to ease.
From the world weather situation, we now move on to the United States, where US President Donald Trump has ordered the US military to scale back joint exercises with South Korea, citing his good relationship with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and Seoul's refusal to join the US war in Iran. Analysts say Trump may be looking for someone to blame as the war drags on.
The South Korean presidential office says it expects the friendship between the leaders of North Korea and the United States to help lead to bilateral talks on peace on the Korean peninsula, following President Donald Trump's reported order to scale back joint military exercises with Seoul. The remarks came in response to Trump's social media post yesterday, saying he had instructed the Pentagon to substantially reduce joint South Korea-US military exercises. Trump said the exercises are not only costly, but also send, quote-unquote, a totally inappropriate and hostile signal to the North in what appears to be a conciliatory gesture toward North Korea. The post came as the summertime Ulchi Freedom Shield or UFS exercise between Seoul and Washington was set to begin in South Korea. North Korea has long condemned the annual drills as a rehearsal for an invasion. The White House has repeatedly affirmed that Trump remains open to dialogue with Pyongyang, quote-unquote, without any preconditions. Trump had 3 in-person meetings with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un during his first term. In Singapore in June 2018, in Hanoi in February 2019, and at the inter-Korean border village of Panmunjom in June 2019. Both Seoul and Washington have closely coordinated on maintaining a firm combined defense posture and conducting joint drills and exercises, and will continue such coordination on related matters, according to the presidential office. The office also said that Seoul has actively participated in international discussions on a ceasefire in Iran and efforts to restore freedom of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz, and is closely consulting with the US on ways to make practical and military contributions.
Sri Lanka's Sonal Dinusha scored his maiden Test century today, posing himself as the standout batter of the Test series against India.
Jamal, are we ready to take a look at what happened in Galle?
Yes, indeed, guys. A very good evening to everyone joining Primetime News. Like they mentioned, Galle is the highlight of sports news today, as day 3 of the first test of the 2-match series played against India under the ICC World Test Championship continued. Replying to a commanding first innings from the visitors, Sri Lanka found themselves in a tricky position after losing 5 wickets in just 90 runs. However, a 146-run stand for the 6th wicket between Sonal Dinusha and Niroshan Dickwalla against a disciplined Indian bowling attack allowed Sri Lanka to reach 284 runs in their first innings. Sonal Dinusha brought up his maiden Test century today and produced a crucial innings for Sri Lanka under pressure.
India, who resumed their first innings, were eventually bowled out for 462 runs. Devdutt Padikkal was the top scorer for the visitors with an impressive 167 runs. For Sri Lanka, Prabhat Jayasuriya claimed 4 wickets, while Test debutant K. Sharanwantha picked up 3 wickets. Sri Lanka's reply got off to the worst possible start, with Nishan Madhushka dismissed without scoring a single run. Dinesh Chandimal managed just 4 runs, while Lahir Udara contributed 27 runs. Sri Lanka then found themselves in deep trouble after losing their first 5 wickets for just 90 runs. However, wicket-keeper batter Niroshan Dickwalla and Sonal Dinusha then steadied the innings with a valuable 146-run partnership for the 6th wicket. Dickwalder scored 80 runs, registering the 23rd Test half-century of his career. The highlight of the day belonged to Dinusha, who reached his maiden Test century of 168 deliveries. His innings included 4 boundaries and 2 sixers. The 25-year-old has now featured in 3 Test matches and had previously recorded 1 half-century before converting his latest opportunity into a memorable 100. For India, Manav Sudhar finished with 4 wickets. Sri Lanka's first innings eventually came to an end on 284 runs, leaving India firmly in control of the opening test, despite a fighting century from Sunal Dinusha.
Shihan Antodinesh's latest book, The Scientific Art of Karate, was officially launched recently in Anthlon Island.
The book, The Scientific Art of Karate, authored by Shihan Antodinesh, was launched recently in Athlone Island. Councillor Frankie Kina, the chief guest, officially launched the book by presenting its first copy. The event was chaired by Kamdeepan Somasurya Singham, a board member of the Shotokan Karate Academy International in Ireland. Antodinesh has attained the rank of Shihan in karate in both the United States and Japan, as well as the rank of Kyoshi in the United States. He has previously authored 2 books, Martial Arts, Historical and Technical, and The Art of Karate, The Path to Recognition.
And with that, we wrap up Primetime News for tonight.
Thank you for watching.
Good night.